After my wife's promotion, her dad slapped my shoulder and said, "Well, at least one of you isn't a complete failure." Her mom chimed in, "Don't feel bad. Some men are just meant to watch." I just smiled and said, "You're right." Later that week, they opened their front door to see what I'd had delivered to every neighbor within a mile. I never used to think of myself as a man who could hold a grudge. I worked hard, I kept to myself, and I figured life, even things out over time. I was raised in the kind of town where you shook hands after a fight, helped your neighbor mow the lawn, and didn't keep score. That's what I used to believe. Then I married into Diane's family, and that belief got slowly, painfully beaten out of me. We lived in Greenville, South Carolina. Decent-sized city. Not too fast, not too backward. I met Diane in a hardware store, of all places back when I worked for a regional HVAC company and she was fresh out of college. She was sharp, confident, and she had this energy about her, like she knew where she was going and didn't care what got in the way. I liked that. At first, Diane came from money. Not filthy rich, but the comfortable, just if you don't have a master's kind of money. Her dad, Raymond, ran a construction business he inherited, though most of his days were spent drinking scotch and playing golf. Her mom, Susan, was the classic Southern queen bee, always dressed like she was headed to a charity luncheon, even if she was just going to the grocery store. When I proposed, I didn't think much of the tension with her parents. I figured they were just snobby, overprotective, whatever. But the day I asked Raymond for his blessing, he laughed and said, "As long as you can keep her in the lifestyle she's used to, son. Or at least keep her entertained." That should have been my warning. Diane and I got married anyway. We bought a modest house. Nothing fancy, but solid. I ran my own HVAC subcontracting crew by then, not rich, but stable. Diane started working at a marketing firm downtown. She was good at it. I told her that all the time. She worked late, weekends sometimes started climbing fast, and her parents started circling like vultures. Every Sunday dinner at their place felt like an interview. Raymond would ask how the little business was going, like he didn't remember the name. Susan would bring up someone's husband who had just made partner or opened their second location. Diane tried to ignore it, but I saw how their opinions shaped her. Subtle digs, constant comparisons, all dressed up as concern or jokes. Then came the promotion. Diane got bumped up to a director role. Big deal. Bigger salary. Company car. I was proud of her. I really was. I hugged her when she told her we should go out to celebrate. She hesitated, then said her parents already made dinner reservations for all of us. That dinner, that was the night it all changed. We were at this overpriced steakhouse downtown, the kind of place with dim lights and $90 bottles of wine they pretend are mid-tier. Diane was glowing. I was genuinely happy for her. She deserved it. We toasted, we laughed a little. I thought maybe this would be the moment her parents saw me as something other than background noise. Then Raymond leaned over, slapped my shoulder hard and said, loud enough for the table next to us to hear, "Well, at least one of you isn't a complete failure." I blinked, thought I misheard. He raised a glass to Diane like he'd said something sweet. Susan chimed in with a chuckle, "Don't feel bad. Some men are just meant to watch their wives shine. Nothing wrong with being a cheerleader." They laughed. Diane gave this awkward smile, the kind you make when you don't want to rock the boat. My stomach dropped. I looked at her, hoping she'd say something. She didn't. I swallowed hard and smiled. "You're right," I said, and I raised my glass too. But in my head, something cracked. That night, lying in bed next to Diane while she scrolled through her phone, I stared at the ceiling and thought, this isn't just disrespect. This is war. The next few days, I played nice. I went to work. I smiled when Diane talked about her new office. I helped with dinner. But inside, I was making plans. You see, Raymond and Susan lived in one of those perfect little gated communities on the edge of Malden. One of those step-forward places where every yard is manicured. Every driveway has a Lexus or BMW, and every neighbor gossips like it's sport. Appearances were everything to them. And I knew the best way to hit back wasn't through yelling or arguing. It was through shame. So I spent a few evenings digging. Quietly, carefully. Turns out Raymond's construction business was hanging on by a thread. He hadn't managed it in years. His COO handled the books, and badly. I found records of late payments to vendors, small claims lawsuits from contractors, even a few OSHA violations. All public record. Took some piecing together, but it was all there. Not criminal, but definitely shady. Then I remembered something Susan once bragged about. She was on a neighborhood HOA board. Super proud of it. Loved sending letters about trash cans being left out or lawns needing mowing. I found the HOA bylaws online. Turns out they were very strict about business being conducted from home, even charitable ones. No flyers, no signage, nothing. Perfect. So I created a homeowner's awareness packet. Sounded official, right? Professional-looking folder. Glossy cover. Inside was a well-written letter warning neighbors about ongoing patterns of mismanagement and contractual instability with Raymond's company. I worded it carefully. No lies, all factual, all backed with records. I included screenshots, links, even a flowchart of delayed projects. Then I included a fake letter from a concerned former employee describing safety lapses and unpaid wages. But the kicker? The return address was listed as Raymond and Susan Carter, community advocates. Then I printed 213 copies. On a Thursday afternoon, while Raymond and Susan were out at a charity luncheon, I knew, because Susan had posted about it on Facebook, I paid 3 temp delivery drivers from Greenville to walk door to door within a 1-mile radius of their house and hand-deliver those folders to every single home. Gated or not, packages still get through. The next morning, their street was buzzing. That afternoon, I drove by slowly just to see. I saw 2 neighbors talking on their driveway, holding the folder. One of them pointed toward Raymond's house and shook their head. Another man crossed his arms and nodded. That evening, Susan posted a long, dramatic message in the neighborhood Facebook group about malicious defamation and someone trying to sabotage a respected family. She begged the HOA to investigate. But here's the thing. They couldn't, because the packets were delivered, not mailed or posted. No rules were broken. Raymond called Diane that night, furious. Diane came into the kitchen holding her phone, mouth tight. "What the hell did you do?" she asked. "Nothing illegal," I said calmly. "Just told the truth." She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. I stared right back. "Maybe now your parents will learn what it feels like to be humiliated in public," I added. She didn't say a word. But that was just phase 1. The fallout hit fast. By Saturday morning, Susan had gone silent online. No new posts, no smiling brunch photos, nothing. But the neighbors weren't done talking. One woman from the next street overposted in the HOA group asking if anyone else had had bad experiences with Raymond's business. That thread got over 60 comments in 2 hours. People were pissed. Half of them had used his company for remodels, pool installs, or patio work. Some said they were still waiting on work to be finished from months ago. Someone, not me, I swear, took screenshots of the documents I'd included and uploaded them to Nextdoor. Then someone else started tagging local consumer watchdog groups. All hell broke loose. Diane didn't talk to me much that weekend. I think she knew, deep down, that I'd done it. But she didn't ask for details. She looked tired, like the wind had been knocked out of her. She started sleeping on the far edge of the bed, barely said goodbye when she left for work. I'll be honest, I felt a twinge of guilt. Not enough to regret it, but enough to know this was going to cost me more than just my pride. Then Monday morning came, and the second punch landed. I got a call from my friend Jared, who works supply for a big construction distributor. He sounded rattled. "Hey man," he said, "Raymond called me. Said he's blacklisting you. Said you're a disruptive force and not to work with you. I told him to go to hell, but you might want to check around." I made a few calls. Sure enough, 3 vendors I'd worked with for years suddenly couldn't fulfill orders or had to prioritize other clients. It was Raymond pulling strings, trying to crush my business from behind the curtain. Diane said nothing. I think she thought if she stayed quiet, she'd stay neutral. But neutrality is a luxury only available to people who haven't been burned. I confronted her one night while we were eating leftovers in silence. "Your dad's cutting off my supply chains." She put down her fork and said quietly, "You humiliated him, and he's been humiliating me for years." I shot back. "You started a war." "No," I said, "he did. I just finally fought back." That night, she slept in the guest room. The next week was pure chaos. Clients canceled jobs. My guys started asking questions. One of them, Frankie, had been with me for 4 years. Good guy, loyal. He sat me down after work one day and said, "Look, man, I need the hours. If this keeps going south, I might have to jump." I didn't blame him. I'd do the same, but I wasn't done yet. Phase 2 took planning. Careful timing. I knew from talking to one of Susan's old friends, long story, lots of wine at a Christmas party, that she had a habit of helping neighbors by giving advice on everything from home design to who to hire. She treated herself like a personal concierge for the HOA. And that gave me an idea. I built a fake Yelp account, then a second one, then 3 more, all from different names with different writing styles. I left detailed, brutal reviews on Raymond's business pages. Not fake stories, but exaggerated truths. I backed them up with photos taken from actual complaints. One review mentioned Susan by name, claiming she'd given them a personal recommendation that ended up being a disaster. Then I submitted those reviews to a couple of consumer review blogs. And because people love a scandal, they picked it up. One of them ran an article titled, "When Prestige Becomes Poison: The Fall of a Southern Business Giant." It was shared 4,000 times in 3 days. Diane came home that Thursday and just dropped her bag on the floor. She stood in the living room, staring at me. "You're going to destroy them." I looked up from the couch. Maybe they shouldn't have tried to destroy me. She didn't respond, just walked upstairs without another word. By Friday, my business was hanging by a thread. But Raymond's was worse. 3 lawsuits filed. 2 partners pulled out. One of his banks canceled a line of credit. The HOA sent him a formal warning about inappropriate business referrals and noncompliance. A few neighbors even called for Susan to be removed from the board. I should have felt triumphant, but all I felt was tired. Diane avoided me more and more. We barely spoke. I caught her texting someone late at night, but I didn't ask. I didn't want to know. Some nights I lay in bed and wondered if I'd gone too far. Other nights, I reminded myself of that slap on the shoulder, that smirk, those words, "At least one of you isn't a complete failure." One morning, I came down to the kitchen and found Diane already dressed, suitcase by the door. "I need space," she said flatly. "From me?" I asked. "From all of this. I'm going to stay at Rachel's for a few days." Rachel was her coworker. Divorced. Always hated me. I nodded. Didn't fight. Just said, "Okay." She left without hugging me. The house felt like a tomb. And then came phase 3. The final blow. But I'll get to that next. A few days after Diane left, I came home from work to find an envelope taped to my front door. No return address. My name written in rushed handwriting. I opened it on the porch. Inside were 2 things: a printed email exchange and a photo. The email was between Diane and someone named Andrew Morgan, a name I didn't recognize. But from the context, it didn't take much to figure it out. It started off professional, then got more personal. Late-night replies. Inside jokes. One of her lines stood out. "Honestly, I don't know how much longer I could fake it at home." The last email had a hotel reservation link. The photo was a grainy shot of Diane and some man getting into a car outside a restaurant, his hand on her back, her laughing. I stood there staring at it until my hand shook. I didn't know who left the envelope. A neighbor? One of the delivery guys I used for the folder drop? Someone trying to stir things up? Didn't matter. Whoever it was, they forced my eyes open. She'd been cheating, not just checked out emotionally. Full-on affair. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I went inside and sat in my recliner with a beer, letting it all sink in. I played back every distant look, every night she came home late from meetings, every moment she didn't defend me. It all made sense now. I called her, straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I didn't need to, because now the gloves were off. First, I looked up Andrew Morgan. Took 5 minutes. He worked at Diane's company, senior project lead. Widower. 2 kids. I found his social media, saw a few photos of him and Diane at work events. Always off to the side, but now I saw the looks, the closeness. Next, I called a friend, Tasha, who worked in corporate IT security. I didn't ask her to hack anything, just gave her Andrew's name and Diane's. Told her I suspected something. She owed me from back when I helped fix her HVAC after her divorce. No charge. She got back to me the next day. "Yeah," she said. "It's not just you. They've been flagged for inappropriate use of internal communication platforms. HR's watching them. I smiled. Thanks. Now I had options. I could go nuclear and expose them both. Or I could wait. Let them hang themselves. I chose both. First, I sent a copy of the envelope, emails and photo, to Diane's personal email with no note. Just a subject line. For your promotion party. She didn't reply. 2 hours later, she called. I didn't pick up. Second, I created a burner email and sent the whole packet to the HR director at Diane's company. I wrote, "Thought you might want to know what one of your senior directors is up to, especially during office hours." Third, I waited. 3 days later, Diane showed up at the house. She looked pale, tired, like she hadn't slept. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. She said, "They suspended me. HR's investigating." I just nodded. Should have thought about that before you started sleeping with Andrew Morgan. Her jaw clenched. It wasn't like that. I held up a hand. Don't. Just don't. We stood in silence for a while. Then she said quietly, "Did you send that to my work?" I did. "You ruined my career. You let your parents ruin my name. Then you let your boyfriend do the rest." She looked like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. Just turned and walked to her car. I shut the door and finally breathed, but still wasn't over. That weekend, I was at the grocery store when my phone buzzed. It was Frankie, my employee, texting me, "Yo, just saw a Craigslist post about you. Thought you should know." He sent a screenshot. Someone had posted my name, phone number, and business name under scam alert in the Greenville services section. Said I took deposits and vanished, and used intimidation tactics when called out. It was all lies. I checked. The post had already been flagged and removed, but the damage was done. A few clients had seen it. One called and canceled a job. Another said they just didn't feel comfortable anymore. Raymond had to be getting desperate. Fine. I decided it was time for phase 3, the final hit. But I wasn't going to do it alone. I reached out to an old customer, Dennis Mercer, who ran a home inspection company. Raymond had screwed him over years back. Never paid for a job. I told Dennis what had been happening. I showed him the evidence. He laughed and said, "Let's light the match." Dennis called a few media contacts, small, local outlets. Told them about a shady construction firm using HOA contacts to line their pockets. He gave them documents, names, dates, everything. They ran a story. Small headline, but damning. Local business under fire for HOA backdoor deals and unfinished projects. The story blew up. More neighbors came forward. A Facebook group formed, Victims of Carter Construction. Raymond tried to defend himself in a statement, but it only made things worse. He sounded angry, petty, guilty. The next HOA meeting? A disaster. Susan showed up, tried to defend Raymond. People shouted. One woman waved a photo of her half-finished driveway and yelled, "You're a fraud, Susan." The HOA voted to suspend her from the board, pending investigation. I wasn't there. I didn't need to be. I just heard about it all from the same neighbors who used to ignore me at Susan's dinner parties. Now they shook my hand. But the price? It was getting high. My business was bleeding. Diane had officially been let go. Not fired, technically, but asked to step down. She moved in with her sister in Colombia. I hadn't seen her in 2 weeks. I'd won, but my marriage was dead, and I still hadn't delivered the final blow. But it was coming. They just didn't know what I'd really been building behind the scenes. Yet, the final blow wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was slow, painful, and personal, like rot setting into the walls of a perfect-looking home. After the media story hit, I waited. I didn't reach out to Diane. I didn't call her. I let her sit with the silence. I knew she was spiraling. Her sister Rachel posted vague "pray for strength" quotes every day on Facebook, and Diane's LinkedIn quietly changed from director to open to opportunities. Then one morning, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but something told me to pick up. "Hello, this is Jason Wolf. I'm an investigator with the South Carolina Contractors Licensing Board." I froze. "Yeah. I'm following up on a complaint regarding Carter Construction Group. Multiple violations reported over a 5-year period, including unlicensed subcontracting, unsafe labor conditions, and consumer fraud." He asked if I'd be willing to confirm some details. I said yes. I told him everything. I sent copies of invoices, texts, the HOA bylaws, and emails I had from Susan and Raymond offering me off-the-record kickbacks for recommending them on jobs. By the time I was done, Wolf said quietly, "You've been very helpful, sir. This isn't the only case we're reviewing." I didn't hear much after that for a couple of weeks. Then I got the text from Frankie. "Bro, Raymond's company license got pulled. State shut him down." I went online. Sure enough, South Carolina Licensing Board had revoked Carter Construction's operating license pending a full investigation. Lawsuits started stacking up. Vendors were going public. Old workers. Even Raymond's former COO turned on him. Claimed Raymond used to pocket safety funds and blamed accidents on careless crews. It was all unraveling. Susan, meanwhile, had become a ghost in their perfect little neighborhood. A few neighbors told me she stopped going to events, closed all her social media, and was seen screaming at HOA board members during a closed-door session. The HOA voted to permanently ban her from serving on any committee. They went from ruling their block to being completely shut out. And then Diane came back. Not like I expected. She didn't call ahead. She just showed up at the house one Tuesday afternoon, suitcase in hand, pale and thin like she hadn't been eating. I opened the door but didn't say anything. "I don't have anywhere else," she said softly. I looked at her. "You still with Andrew?" Her eyes dropped. "He ghosted me the day I got fired. Said he couldn't afford drama." I stepped aside. She walked in, set her bag down, and sat at the kitchen table. She looked around like she didn't recognize the place. We sat there in silence for a while. Then she said something I wasn't ready for. "My dad had a breakdown." I raised an eyebrow. "He won't leave the house. Keeps pacing the kitchen. Yells at the TV. Says everyone betrayed him. Blames me. Blames you. Blames God." I didn't say anything. "My mom's worse," she added. "She told me I ruined everything. That I should have never married someone who wasn't one of us." I nodded. "That sounds like Susan." Diane looked at me, eyes red. "I'm sorry." I didn't say I forgave her. I didn't even say I understood. I just said, "You're not staying here." She blinked. "What? You need help?" I said calmly. "Not pity, and not from me." She started to cry, real slow, silent, not even wiping her face. "I gave everything to that job," she whispered. "And I gave everything to you," I said. "And your parents threw in my face. You let them. Then you let Andrew crawl into the hole they made. I didn't mean to hurt you, but you did. Every time you said nothing. Every time you watched them humiliate me and chose comfort over decency." She didn't argue. She didn't beg. She just stood, walked to the door, and turned once before leaving. "Do you think I deserve all this?" she asked. I thought about it. Not all of it, but enough. She nodded like she expected that. Then she left. That was the last time I saw her. The divorce was quiet. Mutual agreement. No kids. No fight over the house. She didn't want it. Just signed and mailed the papers. She left her wedding ring in the mailbox. I pawned it. Used the money to pay my crew one last time before I officially closed the business. That was hard, letting the company go. But after everything, the name was too dirty to salvage. I went back to work as a subcontractor under a friend's license for a while. Quiet jobs, no drama. I even took a couple years off from dating. Needed to rebuild from scratch. Raymond never recovered. He had a nervous breakdown. Got sued into bankruptcy. Moved to a one-story rental outside Spartanburg, from what I heard. Susan left him within the year. Told people he'd lost his mind. Truth was, he just finally saw himself clearly and couldn't stand the view. Diane moved to Atlanta. Started working retail. No big career comeback. Just a slow crawl back to normal. Every once in a while, I still drive by their old neighborhood. Their old house has new owners now. Someone who put in a garden where Susan's rose bushes used to be. They look better. Peaceful. I don't feel proud of what I did, but I don't feel sorry either. They call me a failure. A cheerleader. Just meant to watch. So I watched them fall. And I didn't look away.